Hello, Aries, and welcome to your July 2026 monthly horoscope. My name is Justina. Welcome to my channel. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. All right, so here today we are going to look at some of the most significant events happening in the month of July, and I'll tell you how they may influence your life on a deeper level. I follow Western astrology tropical zodiac, and these horoscopes are most accurate for your rising sign, also called the ascendant sign. However, you can also watch them for your moon sign or your sun sign if you wish, just to get a bigger picture and a wider perspective upon your life. All right, so it's a really busy month. We've got fresh energies happening, more retrogrades, more planets turning retrograde as well, but also the nodes shifting into brand new signs. And this is really interesting because it only happens every 18 months, and it also coincides with a new eclipse cycle which started in February this year. We had the first eclipse of this new cycle in Aquarius in your 11th house. And in August, there will be a solar eclipse in Leo in the opposing house. And in the meantime, the nodes will shift into these brand new signs. All right, so let's start from the first event. And this is Neptune. Neptune will turn retrograde at 4 degrees of Aries. And this retrograde begins on July the 7th. Last year, on July the 7th, Uranus entered Gemini, and this year, on the same day, Neptune turns retrograde in Aries. So this year, Neptune will only reach the 4th degree of Aries, and at this point, as of July the 7th, it will begin to move backwards, as seen from their position on the planet Earth. Now, Neptune entered Aries on the 26th of January. It will stay here for over a decade. So here, Neptune is the planet connected to confusion, illusion, mystical energies, spirituality, fog. So it can generally it could have made you see things live through rose-tinted glasses. The first house is the area of the self. As Aries, your ascendant, so this is the sign or the lens through which you see the world, and this lens has been flavored this year by new influences of Neptune and Saturn. So there could have been a certain degree of confusion you may have experienced in terms of the direction that you're heading with your life, with your goals, for example. You may have already also questioned yourself, your personality, your identity. And at the same time, with Neptune here in the first house, sometimes it's more difficult to set clear and healthy boundaries because Neptune tends to dissolve any structures, especially those structures in our lives that are built on rocky foundations. So here with Neptune turning retrograde, this is when the fog begins to lift. It's a very popular expression. I see it everywhere online, but it's basically it's when those any illusions you may have had about your life path, about the direction your life is taking, they now begin to lift, dissolve. It's actually a reality check, and you are able to see things more clearly. Think about the decisions you made since late January until late June, the people that you met, if you were confused, unsure about certain people, individuals, certain goals, objectives that you set for yourself. Then here Neptune will lift that illusion that you may have experienced, and it will help you to see things more clearly, and this is in connection to your identity, to your life direction, to your goals, objectives. So any fogginess related to your personal life, to your personal goals, to your identity, to your needs, desires, here, this is when you gain much needed or much better clarity moving forward for the next few months. Now here, generally, this isn't really also a time, because Neptune is a slow-moving planet. This isn't a time to push necessarily for more clarity. Let things happen, let things evolve naturally if you can. Then around between 13th, 14th, we've got a series of some interesting transits. So first of all, on the 14th of July, there is a new moon in Cancer happening. at 21 degrees. So bear in mind that at this point, Mercury is still retrograde in the sign of Cancer. This retrograde started around the 29th of June, along with the full moon in Capricorn. Mercury turned retrograde. This retrograde ends on the 23rd of July. So at the time of this new moon, Mercury is still retrograde in the sign of Cancer, the same sign as this, where this full moon, new moon will take place. In the build-up toward this new moon, we've got two important events that will also influence the energy of this new moon. We've got the Cazimi, the Sun and Mercury retrograde. Cazimi at 20 degrees of Cancer. So when the new moon occurs, Mercury will be pretty much very, very tightly conjoined the new moon. All right, so, and then we've got also Venus and Uranus square on the 13th, so literally the day before the new moon. So these energies, these transits will deeply influence the energy of the new moon with Venus and Uranus square. So Venus is in Virgo in your 6th house, and Uranus, of course, is in your 3rd house. With Venus and Uranus square, this energy could bring some disruptions in your daily life, in your daily reality. It could also indicate some unexpected news, a turn of events. Venus rules over your 2nd and your 7th house, so this could also relate to some financial or relationship matters that might be influenced, affected during this time as well. So with Uranus, it's essential to go with the flow, and any resistance to this energy, resistance to change, might result in unfulfilling outcomes. So watch your reactions as well. Sometimes with Uranus, under the influence of Uranus, especially squares, sometimes our reactions are too explosive and they can lead to unnecessary misunderstandings. But at the same time, we also have a Cazimi at this point happening. The Sun and Mercury conjoin in the sign of Cancer at 20 degrees in your 4th house, and Mercury is retrograde at this point. So this could be a day of some really strong realizations as well that take place around this time, connected to your home, emotional security, stability, your foundations. Anything regarding your home situation, any decisions, any thoughts, realizations here, write things down, because the deeper meaning of what emerges around this time might come after the retrograde phase of Mercury is over. But at the same time, with the new moon here in Cancer on the 14th, straight after this Cazimi, when Mercury is still retrograde, conjoined this new moon. So here, in the middle of the month, there is this really strong focus upon your home life, family life, emotional foundations, family-related matters. You might be craving to be at home, to be around people that you find supportive, around connections that are nurturing. But at the same time, this new moon is a great time for setting intentions related to your home life, to your family life. Now, here with the retrograde phase of Mercury being so closely aligned with this new moon, this could also indicate that something from the past, so an idea, a goal, a project from the past might reemerge, resurface around this time. Maybe something that was out of reach is finally possible, is finally achievable. Then on the 23rd, when Mercury turns direct, this is when you might feel or experience this sense of momentum of whatever generally took place around the new moon and the Cazimi between the 13th and 14th in connection to your home, family life, emotional foundations. Anything that felt stuck or on hold might finally gain its momentum. And at the same time, this retrograde ending at 16 degrees of Cancer on July the 23rd also could bring the much needed clarity regarding home-related matters, your emotional foundations, your life, your personal life. And the story from the new moon might be finally moving forward. Now, on July the 26th, we've got Saturn, so a planet that entered your 1st house of the self, around the 14th of February is now turning retrograde at 14 degrees of Aries. So this is the degree that Saturn will reach this year. So I think it's pretty a late degree. Saturn has literally just entered your sign and it's already at 14 degrees, at which point it stations retrograde on the 26th of July in your first house. This is a time overall to go back, review, reassess the work that we've done during those initial here, in this case, scenario, because Saturn has literally just entered Aries this year, your first house. So think about what you have achieved so far with under Saturn's influence. And you can take into consideration last year's influence, May to end of August, when Saturn just gave us a little flavor, a preview, if you will, of what this transit could indicate and mean and bring for us. Now with Saturn turning retrograde in your first house here at 14 degrees, Saturn will go back to about 6 degrees, more or less, and here give you a chance to review, reassess. So have a look if you have any placements during those degrees, I would say 6 to 14, because there is a story that needs to be addressed. Usually the third trigger is the strongest, or this is when generally things happen. The first one could be like a little bit like experiencing that sense of pressure, the retrograde phase. Then the second hit when the planet is retrograde goes over our natal placements. This is when we start to gain more clarity, and then usually things happen during the third trigger when the planet is now in a direct motion. But that won't happen for quite some time until early 2027. But here, this is your chance for looking at the structures in your personal life that you have built in those initial 6 months of 2026. See what's working, see what isn't, see what's sustainable, and what isn't, your goals, objectives, things that you have achieved, and what you can do with these moving forward. Since Saturn is your career planet, and Saturn is generally traditionally associated with careers, our career, but for you specifically, it rules over your 10th house, the house of Capricorn. You might find that that career momentum is slowing down, but this is also a chance for you to review, reassess, reevaluate, go back to whatever was left unfinished and resolved as well. All right, so then on the 26th, a very important event of 2026, this is when the North Node enters Aquarius and the South Node enters Leo. A big event of 2026, of July, especially here. This is the influence over your 11th house of Aquarius and the 5th house of Leo. So it's a major 18-month cycle. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you have had the activation of your 11th house already back in February during the eclipse in the solar eclipse in Aquarius. At this point, you will have the nodes shifting here. So wherever the North Node is present, transiting, whatever area it transits in our birth chart, this is the area of growth. This is when things happen easier. There is an easier flow of energy. The South Node is connected to those more karmic energies, and it tends to suck the energy out of that area of life. So for you, this is your 5th house. For many, this could be about a liberation from any blockages, negative influences that hold you back from being yourself, your authentic self, that hold you back from expressing yourself creatively, artistically, that stop you from reaching your goals, objectives. Sometimes we experience these creative blockages, or we shy away from showing our authentic self, or from even going out for a dance because of some old beliefs, negative comments that we received as children or as young adults that basically are still stuck in our subconscious mind and stop us from enjoying ourselves fully, from showing ourselves authentically and freely. So here the South Node is here to help you to make a difference, to free yourself, to liberate yourself from these negative thoughts, or perhaps some misaligned beliefs. And it's a big cycle of a reinvention of oneself. You will have an eclipse here as well on the 12th of August. So this is also some brand new beginning of some new hobbies, interests for you. Now, this cycle often also coincides with conception, childbirth, family planning, very often with the activation of the 5th and 11th house by the nodes, by the eclipses. This is when many women give birth or get pregnant or at least think about these sort of topics. With the North Node transiting your 11th house, this is when you will be expanding your social circle. This is when certain connections, misaligned connections, will depart from your life. Overall, we need to look at the bigger picture here. Of course, we'll have the eclipses activating these houses every 6 months. So very often with those 11 and the 5th house activations, people change their social circles. This is often a cycle of having some really strong realizations who aligns with you, who doesn't, who belongs in your reality. You might find yourself joining or wanting to join new groups or new communities. Perhaps you'll be also joining a new organization of some kind. All about the people that you surround yourself with, your environment, your social circle. There's usually a shift of energy happening, and there are often, very often, new people that come into our life. But at the same time, you might have this strong need to join new groups, whether this is joining some memberships, organizations, circles, communities, but at the same time, this is also when we realize who is our friend, who we can rely on. There's a greater need to belong, to experience that sense of belonging overall under the influence of this energy. On July 29th, we've got a really, really important, very significant full moon. Of course, full moons are connected to culminations, turning points, and this is also the full moon that will be before the solar eclipse in the sign of Leo that will be around the 12th of August. So here, something in your social circle is coming to a culmination, needs to be addressed. Very often with full moons in the 11th house, we generally have certain thoughts regarding our social circle, our generally friendships. Sometimes this is when we realize that some people are not a positive influence upon our well-being. Other times with a full moon here, we generally, this could be like a reality check in terms of friendships, social circles, communities. Maybe you might realize that you want to leave a certain group because you don't resonate, or if it's a membership, you don't get enough perhaps out of this membership and you want to quit. Now, whatever the scenario, we've got some really tough influences. First of all, a conjunction with Pluto, which makes it very intense, very transformative. There could be something generally that could be revealed, something from the past. Pluto is retrograde. You might find out some secrets, hidden things you were unaware of. This could be also connected to some kind of transformation as well. In your life, in terms of your friendships, your group associations overall. But here with the Sun and Jupiter conjunction with degrees, this is the most beautiful transit, one of the most beautiful transits of the year, apart from, of course, Venus and Jupiter conjunction, which took place around the 9th of June. But so we've got lots of beautiful, expansive energy that could lead to some interesting, abundant opportunities, positive experiences. But at the same time, we also have here Pluto's influence as well, which could generally bring out something out into the open. And there's that intensity in the air. Also think about the full moon in Scorpio that took place on the 1st of May, which was really intense. And here with a full moon conjunct Pluto in Aquarius, so this is quite an interesting influence as well. But I leave it here for you. We'll come back to this full moon closer to the day. In the meantime, have a great month, and until the next time, bye for now.